good morning. I want to thank IREX for inviting me here and allowing me to speak to you, and most importantly, I want to thank all of you for joining me to let me tell you a little bit about my company, CMB Regional Centers, and our most recent EB-5 partnership, Group 78. So without any further ado, CMB is one of the largest active regional centers in the EB-5 industry. Many of you are probably familiar with EB-5. It's been a wild ride over the last year or so with EB-5. We went through about a 10-month lapse. Fortunately, the program is set to receive reauthorization on May 15th of this year. A bill passed in March that made some changes to the program, many of which are positive, but will allow us to truly get back in business and do what we do best, which is offer quality EB-5 investment partnerships to people looking to use EB-5 for their path to permanent residency in the United States. So, first of all, to tell you a little bit about my company, we have about a 25-year track record. We were started by Patrick Hogan. Pat is my uncle. We're a bit of a family company. I'm very proud to work for him. He is one of the, he gets mad when people say this, that he's a grandfather of EB-5 with his beard and what have you, but he is truly one of the fathers of EB-5. He's been around in the industry for a very long time. We were one of the first regional centers ever designated, and he's a very important figure in the industry. And our company, very large, very diverse, very large from an EB-5 sense, that is. So we have about 50 full-time employees. We have 2 offices. Our headquarters are in Dallas, Texas. We have a second office in Illinois. I am based out of Illinois. And we have investor case managers that speak over 14 languages in-house. We've worked with investors from over 104 countries. And we talk a lot about our statistics. In total, we've worked with over 6,000 investors. It's a huge number. It's something that we take a lot of pride in. We've been able to provide these opportunities to a lot of families around the world. We have over 5,000 of those who have already received their petition approvals and are continuing to go through their process, and almost 2,000 that have permanent green cards. And that's something that it's really their achievement. And it's something that we always say, if they have success, we're gonna have success as a company. And it's something that I know we talk a lot about, but we're very prideful in what we've been able to do alongside of our investors. Jump past that. When you talk about EB-5, a lot of people think of it in terms of this investment program for the United States. But the goals are a little bit different than a traditional business investment. Obviously, people are doing an EB-5 investment for the first and foremost goal, which is to receive their permanent green card for themselves, their spouses, and any of their children under the age of 21. And everything we do as a regional center is meant to structure our opportunities to provide safety and security for that first goal above all else. The second most important goal any investor has in an EB-5 project, of course, is to receive their capital back. And so we take a lot of pride in what we've been able to do for our investors. We've been able to return capital to many, many investors already. So we have investors that haven't only just received their first petition approval or the removal of their conditions. We have many, many investors, I believe it's over 1,500 investors who've gone full circle. That's first 526 petition approval, I-829, so that's that permanent green card, and money back. And it's something that's very important. I'll jump past that. Right, to go back one slide, as a company working in this industry, what you have to understand is that there's still a lot of new entries to the EB-5 program. A lot of people that are very new, they don't have an established track record of their own. So we've taken on, you can see the partnership I'm going to talk today, is our Group 78 partnership. We already have 69 partnerships that have been approved. And as they start adjudicating our partnerships again, we're going to start to see that number continue to grow. 28 of those partnerships have resulted in investors starting to receive green cards. Obviously, as they keep adjudicating petitions, we'll see that number grow as well. And 28 partnerships where we've been able to return capital. There's a lot of people out there marketing EB-5, and it might be their first ever project that they've taken on. They have no track record. It's hard to determine whether or not they have what it takes to navigate this industry. Something that we take a lot of pride in is our sense of, in our ability to be able to kind of take something and make sure that it works for the program, and let's try to not fix it if it's not broken. We replicate a lot of the same partnerships. Our core structure hasn't changed in our 25-year history, And the goal for that is give the USCIS something familiar. Give them something that they've seen before. Give them something that they know how to adjudicate. Answer their questions. Be fully transparent. Make sure that they can see everything that we're doing. And if we do that, we know we're going to have success. And so we don't try and make a point to tweak, do things too complicated. If we find a deal that's far too complicated, we're just going to pass on it because it's going to put you at a greater sense of risk. It's going to put our name at a greater sense of risk. And that's not something we can tolerate. Something else we do, and it goes along with what I said about being fully transparent with USCIS. We're fully transparent with our investors. In fact, we were one of the first regional centers in the industry to have all of our partnerships audited. This is something that's now been codified in the new EB-5 law. This is something that regional centers are going to have to do moving forward. We've been doing it since 2014. I think it's important that when you do your due diligence in this pursuit, that you ask for everything you can possibly imagine. You leave no stone unturned. If the regional center can't answer your questions, if they can't get you comfortable, they're not the regional center for you. You should be able to see all of this information. So I'll jump in to talking about Group 78, our current EB-5 partnership. And Group 78 is actually a little bit unique. It was structured to be fully compliant with the regulations that were in force following November of 2019. So it fit tighter investment area criteria and things of that nature. And it actually required that investors put in a higher investment amount, 900,000 US dollars, which has now been settled at 800,000 US dollars with the new law. And there's a panel later this afternoon. I encourage all of you to stick around. I'm going to be on that panel, and we're going to talk in a lot more detail about some of the changes to the program under the new EB-5 law. But what's unique about Group 78 is that it actually already has received an I-924 approval. So this is a petition approval that tells us that the U.S. government has reviewed the business aspects of the project. They understand how we structured it. They understand how we calculated our targeted employment area, which allows the investors to invest at the reduced investment amount. And why this is so important is because a lot of the things that existed under those 2019 regulations have been codified in this new EB-5 law. So we know that moving forward, although that there's some changes, we know that our targeted employment areas are still going to qualify and allow our investors to invest at the reduced investment threshold. And that's very important. Jump past that. So to drill down on the projects, you saw the slide earlier, and during the introduction, we talked about the name of the partnership. It's Group 78. We call it California Build to Suit. And what we're going to be building is two logistics facilities. These are warehouses for large Fortune 500 tenants. We call it Build to Suit because the projects are going to be built to suit the very specific needs of those tenants. The first project, we're actually completing tenant improvement work for that tenant that is signed to a long-term lease. The second project, we're building the entire facility. It's a very large, 2 million square foot facility. And both of these projects are in Southern California in an area known as the Inland Empire Industrial Market. This is an area that has close proximity to the Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach, great access to rail and air cargo facilities that allow this area to serve as logistics hubs to get goods into the United States and distribute them throughout the country. The developer that we're working with for this particular project is called Hillwood Development Company. And Hillwood is the real estate development arm of the Perot family. The Perot family patriarch, Ross Perot Sr., actually passed away a couple of years ago. He's a well-known businessman in the United States, got his start in IT work working for IBM, branched out and was able to form two very successful companies that he later sold. But his family, his son, Ross Perot Jr., founded Hillwood Development back in 1988, and they've grown to become one of the largest real estate developers in the United States, and particularly in the logistics space, the warehousing and logistics space. In total, they've now delivered over 160 million square feet of logistics space throughout the United States, in Europe, and in South America. They have a very successful track record in their own right, but we've also collectively built a very successful track record in working with this developer to do EB-5 projects. So almost a little bit more than a third of the projects that we've taken on in our company's history have been with this particular developer. The reason why we like working with them is they're consistent, they have a high level of integrity, and they pay on time, they complete their buildings on time, and they've never missed a maturity date, they've never had a loan default. They have a very successful track record. They work with some of the best Fortune 500 tenants in the United States, and that's something that we think adds additional safety and security to every single one of our projects. You can see we've done 33 total EB-5 partnerships with this developer. 27 of those have already received petition approvals on the front end. The rest will continue to be approved as they start adjudicating petitions again. You can see 7 of those have already started to receive removal of conditions, that permanency of the green card. And 17 of these partnerships have already repaid loans. So 33 partnerships, more than half of them have already been repaid, have gone full circle. It's an outstanding achievement on Hillwood's part as a developer, but then also as an achievement for our investors that they've been able to have that level of success in working through these EB-5 investments. Now, to drill down a little bit deeper, the first project in this partnership I mentioned is they're both in Southern California. This one's in San Bernardino, California. We call it Waterman TI. This building was actually already completed by Hillwood using funds from a different EB-5 partnership. And then they went out to market the building for a long-term lease tenant. They were able to secure a lease with none other than Amazon.com. Amazon.com now will have a 20-year lease agreement for the facility. The lease is fully guaranteed by Amazon.com, the parent company. And what our work will be is to complete the build-out necessary to suit Amazon and allow them to take occupancy of the facility. In fact, a lot of that work's already been completed. I mentioned that we released this partnership before this whole EB-5 lapse. In fact, we already have 35 EB-5 investors in this partnership that have been able to fund some of the early work on this partnership. What else is important about that? Is it means a lot of the job creation that EB-5 investors will need has already been completed by completing this first segment of the project. The second portion of the project will be to complete a separate facility. This is this large 2 million square foot facility, and that's in Riverside, California. Now, this facility, we're completing all of the work, all of the site development work. We're financing or assisting in the financing of all the site development work, the vertical construction of the building. And then now Hillwood has also secured a long-term lease with another tenant for this one. That lease is with Target Corporation. Target Corporation is number 39 on the Fortune 500 list. They're the 8th largest retailer in the United States. And again, this one has secured a long-term lease. Construction has already started on this facility and it will be completed before the end of this year. And again, our work will be to complete the full building and all the tenant build-out necessary to meet Target's need to allow them to take occupancy and start their operations at this facility. Now, the capital structure for this project, it's actually very simple, very straightforward. About $317 million in total project costs. I apologize, the numbers are probably a little hard to read for some of you in the back. But about $317 million in total project costs, of which $75.5 million will come from EB-5. In total, there will be 99 investors in this partnership. As I mentioned, there's already 35 investors in the partnership, so we're working to secure 64 additional investors to complete the rest of the build-out for this particular project. About $106 million, you can see, in total developer equity. So roughly a third of the project costs are coming from out of the developer's pocket, developer equity. And then you can see about $135 million is coming from a senior construction loan. That loan is coming from JP Chase Bank. So a large institutional lender that is providing financing. That financing is used particularly for the Target project. The tenant build-out on the Amazon project was purely CMB, EB-5 capital, and Hillwood developer equity. The last thing I want to talk about on this particular project is job creation. Job creation is key. When I was talking before about the goals of the investor, that number one goal is to receive your permanent green card, and how that's achieved is to make sure that the project's going to complete plenty of jobs for each investor. Now, the new EB-5 law has changed some of the requirements for job creation. But one of the things that is somewhat nice about the new EB-5 law is it does allow the regional centers to calculate model-derived direct jobs from spending. What you're seeing here is actually a bit of a previously prorated figure for job creation for this project. We're looking at job creation based on economic modeling that will give us model-derived direct, indirect, and induced jobs for a total of 2,695 jobs. You can see the buffers over here, which have also been kind of geared down specific to a more conservative approach at how we would look at a job creation buffer. The job creation numbers provide 17 jobs per investor, 64% job creation buffer. Remember, each EB-5 investor needs 10 jobs. You really don't need 11, you don't need 12. So the number of 17.22 is strictly just to describe the buffer that each investor will have. And why that's important is if for some reason throughout construction there would be an interruption in construction, if there would be some situation in which the developer would have to reduce the overall size and scope of the project, we want to make sure that there's plenty of job creation to be completed on this to make sure that our investors are not at risk. One of the things that we're very proud of as a company is over the years we've been very conservative in structuring our EB-5 investment partnerships. We've never had a project denial. I mentioned we've taken on 78 partnerships, 69 of those have already gotten to that first approval stage. It's something we're very, very prideful in, but we also know that we can't have a failure like that for our investors. Every time you make an EB-5 investment, it's important. It's a lot of money, and it's your family's future in many cases. Sometimes it's an individual person, but often it's a husband and a wife looking to secure a future for their children in the United States. And we take that very, very seriously. Again, I want to thank you all for coming. I'm going to be at our booth the rest of the day. If you have additional questions on this partnership, I know that's a lot of information to absorb. I'd love the opportunity for you to stop by so I can tell you a little bit more about my company and our current offerings. So thank you.